Hi all, welcome and welcome back to my channel. I wasn't planning on doing this video today. I was actually working on another video when I came across this story and I had to cover it. Had to. Because I have a lot to say about it. Did you really just say, oh goody? Whatever. I love how y'all think I can't hear you when you watch my videos. But I can. So, be nice. Just kidding. Y'all are very nice to me. As a matter of fact, you've been some of the nicest people I've met on YouTube, and I'm very grateful for you, so thank you. Okay, let's begin. According to police in Stuart, Florida, a 911 call was placed from a home on November 4th of 2020 from a frantic man who said he accidentally shot his wife and his life was over. When police arrived on the scene, they found his wife, who was 6 months pregnant, deceased from a gunshot wound to the head. They say he was hysterical, but he gave them a detailed account of what happened. So, I'm going to share it with you. He told police that he awoke in the middle of the night, thought he heard somebody in the house, went to investigate with a handgun, saw a shape in the hallway, and fired one round, and unfortunately, it hit his pregnant wife in the head. The names of the man and his wife were not mentioned in the news articles I read because they're being protected by a law designed to protect crime victims called Marcys Law. Now, the man told police he didn't realize his wife was not in the room with him because he said he reached over to her side of the bed and thought he felt her, but it ended up being their dog instead. Police said they also have a 2-year-old child who was in the home with them when the shooting occurred. His wife was rushed to the hospital, where she was pronounced dead, but doctors were able to save their baby. I'm assuming they took the baby via emergency C-section, and they say the baby is in critical condition. Police say that even though he gave them a detailed account of what happened, they will still do a thorough investigation to make sure he isn't lying about what happened. But they say at this time, it appears to be a tragic accident where a man tried to defend his home and shot his wife instead. Now, in all fairness, I get to call BS on his story first. It is my channel, so I get first say. When you do your own YouTube videos and I watch them, I will extend you the same courtesy and allow you to call BS first, and I'll wait. And remember, I can hear you. So, if you call it before me, I will be left with no option but to call you out and embarrass you publicly on my next video. And you don't want that. So, ready? Bullshit. Capital B, capital S, capital I'm not buying it. And if you disagree with me, I want to hear your take in the comments. Now, no disrespect to the investigators on the case or anything, but I'm not too sure they're buying it either. Maybe they're playing it smart and going with his story, hoping he either trips up later or his conscience gets the best of him and he confesses. Now, I wasn't there, but every news report I've read about this case has been the same with all the same details. So it's all I have to go on at this point. And I know we don't have every little detail that the police has, but his story doesn't even come close to adding up to me. Honestly, it sounds to me like a story that he made up prior to the shooting, thinking it sounded good enough to cover his ass. But like so many of the idiot criminals I've discussed on my channel, he didn't think of all the small details that would ultimately give him away. Do criminals not have cable TV or something? I mean, it's obvious that none of them watch the ID channel or court TV or anything. That's why they look so damn dumb. If they would just do their homework ahead of time and learn from some of the dumbasses that came before them, they might actually get somewhere. But I guess I have to be glad that they don't, because then I get to dissect them on my channel and rip their stories apart limb from limb. Now, I'm not saying this because I want to believe he killed her on purpose. What happened to her was horribly tragic, and Lord knows I have a stack of stories about husbands and boyfriends killing their spouses and girlfriends already, so I sure didn't need another one. I just don't buy his story. I didn't the moment I read it. It sounds semi-believable on the surface, but you all know me. I can't do surface. I deep roll, or I don't even bother with the story. But usually it's not this easy. This one was super simple, and I think the police think so too. If you'd like to help me dissect this story, go ahead and get your scalpel. I'll wait. But, not gonna lie, we don't even need that. We don't need to be that precise on this one. So, I'm going in with a good old sharp kitchen knife, 'cause I'm looking to do a lot of damage in a short amount of time. I got other videos to do. So, if you like things all neat and precise, I'll pass my pieces of his story on to you, and you can dissect them further and fill in everything I missed in the comments. Sound good? Let's do it. We'll make a good team. I like to try to put myself in the shoes of the killer to see how I would react to the circumstances as they play out. So, I'm going to start there. If you would react differently, let me know in the comments. But for now, my show, my channel, my reaction. Okay, so I'm sleeping in bed, dreaming about all the money I'm going to be making on YouTube in the near future. And just as I get to my first million, I suddenly wake up to a noise in my house. It startles me. Now, at this point, we have to consider what he knows. He knows his pregnant wife lives in the home with him, as well as their 2-year-old daughter and their dog. So, I don't think my first thought after hearing a noise in my home would be that it was an intruder. Why? Let's consider what he knows about his dog. He walks around the house, and sometimes he needs to go outside. Let's consider what he knows about his 2-year-old. They sometimes wake up in the middle of the night. They make lots of noise. Let's consider what he knows about his pregnant wife, since it is her second pregnancy. She may need to get up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. She may have needed a drink of water. She may have felt sick and went to the kitchen to get something to help. She may have been letting the dog out. She may have been tending to their 2-year-old. So, with so many possible sources of the noise, why would an intruder be the first thing he would think of? There was any number of 100 different scenarios that could have been playing out at that exact moment, but he goes right to intruder. 'Cause he was startled out of his sleep, you say? BS. He has a 2-year-old. A 2-year-old. The man is probably startled out of his sleep regularly by his 2-year-old, who is either having a bad dream, needs a 99th drink of water, or wants him to get rid of the monster under his bed. So, not buying it. Try again. But he thought his wife was in bed next to him? Okay, let's dissect that. You're sleeping. You hear a noise. It freaks you out. You shake your spouse and say, "Did you hear that?" Or, in the case of him having a pregnant wife, he should have shaken her awake to tell her he heard something, so he was going to get his gun to check it out so she would stay put and not end up in the line of fire. But apparently nothing was said. He claims he reached over, felt the dog, and thought it was her. So, he reached over, felt something there, assumed it was her, and went right back to intruder. He didn't, for a second, feel her to make sure it was her. I wonder why. I mean, was that the first time the dog ever slept with them? I doubt it. So, he knew the dog could have been in their bed. Why wouldn't he take an extra second to make sure it was her? If she was 6 months pregnant, she probably had a belly on her. So, he could have just felt for her belly to make sure it was her. But he didn't. He panicked because there was an intruder in his house because he heard a noise. Now, I'm no dog expert, and I know all dogs are different. But if he heard a sound that alerted him that there may have been an intruder in their home, wouldn't their dog have heard it too and probably jumped up and reacted to the noise, maybe even faster than he did? Okay, maybe I'm assuming too much. Let's assume the dog didn't hear a thing and didn't react at all. Maybe he's an older dog, lazy, whatever. No reaction. Sleeps right through it. Wouldn't the guy be expecting us to believe that his bedroom is so dark, pitch black even, to the point where he couldn't even make out that his wife was not in bed with him, but it was his dog? I mean, my room's pretty dark, but I can still make out shapes. But he couldn't tell at all. Okay, fine. I'll give him that. But why wouldn't they have a nightlight or something so that their 2-year-old can find them in the middle of the night if he needed to? Doesn't make sense. Okay, so he's decided there's an intruder in his house, and his wife is in bed next to him sleeping. So he doesn't want to wake her by saying anything, so he decides to get his gun and go defend his family. This is where I have a huge problem with his story, so you might want to stand back. I have quite a bit of carving to do here. He manages to get his gun with no problem in his room, which we've already determined has to be pitch black to the point where he can't even make out shadows, which means A, he had the gun right next to his bed, or B, he had it under his pillow. With a 2-year-old in the house? Really? Just kept your gun locked and loaded within reach of a 2-year-old, who could at any point stumble into your room in the dark and come across it while trying to find you in bed. Not buying it, but okay. 'Cause if it wasn't right within reach, that means he got out of bed to go get it, which means he groped around in the dark or turned on a light, both of which would have disturbed the dog, so the dog would have moved around or gotten up, so he would have seen it wasn't his wife. But even if he grabbed his gun out from under his bed and got out of bed, the dog probably would have moved or gotten up or something. So, not buying that he didn't know his wife wasn't in bed. And the whole time, he never said a word to her. Not even as he was walking toward the bedroom door to tell her to stay put or anything. Okay, fine, sure. He tells police he got his gun and went to investigate. Then he said he saw someone in the hallway, so he shot a single shot. So the bedroom is pitch black, and the hallway is so dark that he could see someone there but couldn't make out that it was his wife. The house seems awfully dark for having a 2-year-old, doesn't it? If the child didn't sleep in their room, then he would have to pass through a dark hallway into their dark bedroom to get to them. Did they have something against nightlights or something? I used to leave the bathroom light on and just leave the door open a crack in case anyone needed to get to the bathroom at night. But they didn't believe in lights apparently. So he sees someone in the hallway, but still doesn't say anything. Doesn't yell, "I have a gun," "Who's there?" "Get out of my house." Nothing. He just shoots. His wife is in the hallway. Maybe she sees him. Maybe she has her back turned. But if she saw him, she didn't ask him why he was up or say anything either. Let's take it a step further. What if it was an intruder? And what if he had their 2-year-old child in his arms? He just shoots anyway? He didn't even try to determine who the person could have been before shooting, or whether or not they had his child. He just shot. Out of panic. Okay, fine. But she was shot in the head. He told police he fired a single shot. Now, I'm no ballistics expert by any means, but I wonder, what are the odds? And just hear me out here. What are the possible odds of shooting a single bullet at a target you can't really see well, in the dark, while in a panic, and hitting it bullseye in the head? Just curious. That would be one hell of a lucky shot, wouldn't it? Especially if you're in a panic. You can't really see, and your hands are shaking. I've shared in a previous video that I went through firearms training as part of a self-defense course I took. It was pretty extensive. And I have to say, it took a while before I could hit a headshot on a target. And I never, ever did it with one shot. Even our instructors told us not to aim for an attacker's head because the target was too easy to miss. They said to aim for the chest, center mass, larger area, easier to hit, especially in a panic. But this guy, he shoots her in the head and kills her with one shot. Wow. Not to be disrespectful, but I'm pretty impressed. Especially in the dark and in a panic. That's wow. Not to mention if she was walking down the hallway, which adds a moving target factor to this scenario as well. Could he have just been so incredibly unlucky as to have his one single shot hit her in the head? I suppose, but I think it would be much more likely that he would have just grazed her head or missed her entirely. Unless he was military, law enforcement, or somehow otherwise trained. But there was no mention of any of that in the articles I read. Now, what I'm about to say next is probably going to make you think I've finally lost my damn mind. I get it. But if I concede to you that that's entirely possible, then you need to concede to me that what I'm about to say is entirely possible as well. Deal? Okay. That shot would have been entirely possible if his wife was either very close to him or with the use of a laser sight, which he could have mounted onto his handgun, then removed after his kill. For those of you who have no clue what I'm talking about, a laser sight is a sight used to aim at a target, especially in the dark. It's that little red dot you often see on people's foreheads in movies when they have a gun aimed at them. Then he would have had a great chance of accuracy in the dark. How do I know this? My kid plays a lot of video games. Now, he is the only person alive to tell police what happened in that house that night. He controls what they know and where he leads their initial investigation. I already guarantee you they are suspicious of the accuracy of his shot in the dark in a panic. That's obvious. I bet half or more of the cops on the force would have difficulty making that shot, and they know that. If he was smart, he would have fired more shots down the hallway to make it look like he fired a number of times and randomly hit her, which would make more sense. But he didn't. If he did the job in one shot, then he didn't want the neighbors to hear multiple shots that would have woken them up so they would call police. He wanted to control the situation. If he used a laser sight, he needed to remove it and dispose of it, deal with his no doubt terrified 2-year-old, and muster up a way to sound hysterical while calling 911. Not to mention, he may have even waited to make sure she was dead before he called. Otherwise, in order to make that shot, he either turned a light on so he could see her well, or she was close to him. Forensic investigators will be able to determine the distance from her to him by the blood spatter pattern left on the walls and the floor. Either way, he would have seen her, known it was her, and shot anyway. How much you want to bet he shocked all to hell that doctors saved their baby? I'd be willing to throw down pretty heavy on that. So, to summarize what we've learned so far, in order to believe his story, we must accept the following statements to be true. He was startled out of his sleep and forgot that anyone else lived in the house with him. His dog probably never slept with him in the bed before, so he didn't think it was the dog he was feeling instead of his wife. His dog sleeps under the covers because he didn't feel his fur. He never woke his wife to see if she heard the noise too, or to tell her that he thought there was an intruder in the house. The dog was hard of hearing or lazy because he didn't react to the noise at all. He was an irresponsible parent and kept his loaded firearm within arm's reach, even though they had a 2-year-old in the house. Their bedroom was pitch black, even though they had a 2-year-old in the house. He didn't grab his phone to call police while he went to investigate. The hallway was also dark, even though they had a 2-year-old in the house. He never shouted a warning to the person in the hallway or fired a warning shot before shooting to kill. His wife also didn't say anything to him while she was in the hallway. He was an incredibly accurate shot, even in the dark and in a panic. Okay, got it. I just have one more question. Why didn't he wake his wife to have her call 911 while he was going to investigate? What if the intruder also had a gun and he got shot instead of the intruder? Wouldn't his first reaction, especially in a panic, be to wake his wife and tell her to call 911 while he was grabbing his gun to go defend his family? I know. Silly me. He couldn't wake her to tell her to call 911 because she wasn't in the bed with him. If he tried, she wouldn't have responded, and he would have known it was the dog, not her, in bed. Then he would have no excuse for not knowing it was her in the hallway. Then his whole story would have been blown out of the water. So, no, he couldn't have done that. That was stupid of me. Sorry. That's why he didn't try to wake her or say anything to her. Because he could have never explained away her lack of response. The prosecution rests, Your Honor. Boy, I really think I'm something, don't I? I don't know how y'all put up with me. I think you must love me. Just a pinch. Want to know where I learned how to be a lawyer? Matthew McConaughey. If you haven't seen A Time to Kill or The Lincoln Lawyer, you're missing out. He plays attorneys in both, and he's amazing. He taught me everything I know about lawyering. And for an exclusive tip that you will only receive here on Who, What, When, Where, he is also a professor at the University of Texas. So, technically, and he could help you build your argument for this. Watching those movies is like going to law school without all the homework or the huge bill. See? And you wondered if I had your back. As always. Thank you all so much for watching. I love you all too. And I'll see you on my next video.